All right, good afternoon, everybody. Let's do it. My name is Patrick Hawe. I'm an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All trades placed by myself are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Position disclosure. Please take time to pause the video. Of course, read this disclosure. Read it twice even. It's good stuff. Position disclosure. My current longs. Nothing new after today. Same as yesterday. Okay. Yeah, good earnings from Disney. Disney up a lot. Looks like pretty much every number beat subscriber numbers. And Uber looking pretty solid as well. Not trading any of this because I'm doing this meeting. But Uber, this 44 is a level here. But big move in Uber. Yeah, so let's talk about the market. So market was pretty boring today overall. So after yesterday, I was saying we're looking for a continuation today. Bulls held support well. We closed really strong. SPY closing right, SPY closing over 450. Q's closing right at this 360. The threatening of the bears that the bears had given us after this close on this day, where this ADMA was threatening to curl back down. Same thing with SPYs, I think. Yeah, pretty much same thing with SPYs. Closing below the 8. Bulls reversed that again yesterday. Closed very, very well. So after yesterday, we were saying we were looking for a continuation today. A lot of that happened overnight, though, which it's always annoying when that happens. When you expect or you're ready for a move, you're ready. Like I was so ready to buy Qs through 360 today, and then this morning the Qs are opening. We're trading 364 pre-market. But that being said, we got the continuation we were looking for, and we still traded a bit higher today. So the plan coming into the morning meeting was pretty much this looks like a gap and go. In my opinion, that's what I was saying. It looks like a gap and go. It's the upside. I guess I'll just talk about what makes a gap and go versus like a common gap. And it's usually one, the gap is really big, and two, it's over preferably 3 or more days of consolidation. And it's even better where it's like a reversal of something, which is exactly what this was a potential. This was a gap and go to the downside. I think someone was asking me about gap and goes this morning, so I guess just good to kind of talk about. I think I think you really need like 3 or 4 or more days, like multiple days of consolidation, unless it's something like this where you gap below the entire day and it's like a total reversal of sentiment. Like SPY's really strong here, closes really well, and then this day we we close on highs and then gap below the entire day. I mean, that just is asking for a washout. And then we're kind of bearishly consolidating, looking bearish after this close, especially on the Qs. And then after yesterday, we're looking back strong. And then today, we're gapping over resistance. We're gapping over 4 days with the resistance at 360. And the highest point that we've gotten to in this past 4 days is 361.93. So 362. And then this morning, we're trading 364. So we're gapping way above that. Anyone who's short is probably going to get squeezed. Anyone who got stopped out of their longs because of this gap down probably needs to rebuy, so on and so forth. Cycles of feedback of buying and selling, all that good stuff. So that's why today we were looking at this as a gap and go. So our plan for the morning meeting was pretty much wait for moving averages to catch up before doing any real buying in anything, and hopefully that saves some people. So I guess we'll take a look at the 2 minute first. So SPY with the 2 minute chart, it was such a big gap that it took a bit of time. It really took like a solid hour, honestly. We really went sideways. This like mid 455 for a solid hour here, and you can see even when, yeah, I guess it was pretty much when the 5 minute caught up here. But sometimes it can be when the five. It's not necessarily when the 5 minute catches up to the exact price SPY is trading at. It can just be like when SPY catches up to the low of the day. So SPY cut up to the low of the day right here, and there was definitely a chance for this to go then. That could have been an opportunity, but it took a bit more time. It took a solid hour, and then we curled up, but really just kind of chopped all day. And if you're long from yesterday, you probably are pretty happy today. If you over traded the indices today, though, I could see you losing money. This doesn't really look easy. So that's why the game plan off the open was definitely just patience, waiting for these moving averages to catch to catch up off the open. And you can see what happened. Like Qs, it's not perfect. IWM, it's pretty nice. SPY, it's pretty nice. The way they just like kind of curl up, you see that all the time. So yeah, that's our markets. Looking pretty great here. So SPY, Q is looking really solid. Q is reclaiming the 200, closing pretty much at the 200 right now. Still need more for a higher high on the daily there, and SPY needs a little bit more for their higher high too. And then IWM looks great, and the Dow looks pretty good as well. So those are markets. We have CPI inflation number tomorrow. So I have no idea how we will react. I'll just be patient and then wait to see how we do react, and then whatever the price action says, you got to listen to it, right? So I'm sure it's going to be hot, which means high inflation. Is it hot and we don't care and rise more to 460? Do we gap up to 460 tomorrow and then it's hot and we sell off because we're just gapping up already and the market needs an excuse to sell off? Do we gap up to 460? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where we are before the number, and then we'll see how we initially react to it, and we'll see what the number is. But that's definitely like the next thing that everyone's watching. So in terms of tomorrow, we'll see, I guess, what happens there. But going forward, bull, I know this is a gap, but I wouldn't really want to see this gap be filled. If anything, SPY, I guess you could argue, is filling this gap. I don't think that this gap should be filled, though. I think that we should, again, I've been saying 460 is huge resistance, and we can't even quite really get there. But I don't think we should go back to 450 if this is gonna start to look better, right? It is a big gap, but it was a gap and go. This wasn't there's a reason why, it was just like a continuous, really strong trend overnight that started yesterday and then just remained bid overnight and then remained bid into today. 2 days of very, very strong buying. So because of that, you don't just expect, sellers to come in strong out of nowhere and buyers to not be there when the sellers do come in out of nowhere. So if anything, might just chop around for a few days while our ADMA looks to cross above the 21 for the first time since late December. And yeah, we'll see how we react tomorrow. But definitely really don't want to see SPY below 455. It's not the end of the world. This morning the levels I said were SPY has a target of 460, and you don't want to see SPY below 452, which SPY, it didn't even break the pre-market low 453. It just continued to grind up. And Qs, I said you don't want to see below 361.50, And Q's flushed a little, but they did hold pre-market lows. They held 362 and then rose. So we held our levels. So yeah, that's the market. And then some names that we were trading. CCJ reported earnings. This was fantastic. A move that I really like to do based on the thought and practice that earnings names tend to trade in the direction that they're trading in for the day. So I like to, basically it's just you just keep it simple. You wait a couple minutes. It depends on the name. It depends how thin it is. It depends what the volume's like. If it's Netflix, you might want to give it some time and give it some space. But if it's a name like this and it has good volume and it's tight, you might only need to give it a minute or two. But a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. And then if it trades through the high, buy through it. Trades through the low, short through it. Because usually earnings names tend to trend in a day. It's big, it's big money adjusting. It's not based on the market at all. So CCJ, let's look at the 2-minute chart here. Let's look at the 1-minute chart. CCJ held the opening low, the absolute opening print low here. And just traded through the high. So hopefully some people were involved in this, but this was one we were focused on. CVS had earnings, and I basically said I don't know how it could go. Buy through high, short through low. I didn't really look at this though. This looks, it's a big gap down, so it traded up, but traded back down, which this is, the opposite of like that V-bottom trade that I like, where a stock trades down and then V-bottoms up and you buy it through the high, and it's harder to buy it through the high because you got shaken out and it's a lot of risk, but usually you can find tighter risk because of the V-bottom, because of the nature of that. Like you're probably not gonna V-bottom and then reverse the reversal. Like that doesn't usually happen. It's kind of like a Max Payne trade for both ways. So this opened and then traded right back down right quick, and hindsight, you probably could have looked for a short somewhere around here, and it just spent the day grinding down. And then CGC reported earnings, and this also actually was decent today. Volume pretty good. I don't know. These weed names are just so hard. It's hard to find good names to invest in with weed, really. SMG is a good name, but the chart's not too good. And energy has been cooling off, but held levels. XLE, I said 68. You want to be long verse. 68 held. HAL 3150, which held really well, and this gave a nice move. Oxy 39. Oxy did hold 39, yeah. I said like lower 39s. And these are still, and they didn't really go today either, which is I'm totally fine with that. Let them keep going sideways and let them keep consolidating. The bigger the base, the bigger the breakout. BKKT, a spec name that we were looking at. This had an inside day. We talked about buying it through the inside day high. I think a lot of people caught this today. It triggered pretty early versus the day low, and that day low didn't trigger, and it also trended really well. Like even over here, you would have thought they would have ran this stop, but it didn't. I think a lot of people caught this BKKT spec name inside day. Juniper was an inside day. This name's kind of hard to trade. I don't know. This didn't really do anything. And then Fox A, really solid as well. I think we said 4150, 41, like 4150 to 41. Yeah. Earnings, which wow. Yeah, so let's look at how you can approach this. So gap up, and this is, again, 5 minute, it takes some time. By the time this 5 minute ADMA is catching up to this low, you're buying at a worse price than I think is possible. You really just need something to catch up. So even like right here on the 2 minute, even just the 2 minute, gaps up, always try and wait for something 1 or 2 minute EMA to catch up versus the low, and then you can try and get in around here somewhere. And then worst case, it does this V bottom kind of where it opens, comes down, trades down, and then trades through the high. And then even though it trades through the high and it's a lot of risk to the low, by the nature of that buying and selling of it trading down and trading back up and trading through the high, it's reversing. It shouldn't reverse the reversal. And this oftentimes happens when this trade does this, is it trades through the high and then will kind of like consolidate and then eventually keep going, at least if it's early on in the day. So that's Fox A. And yeah, I think that's all I really have. So again, it was, not a great day, but I think a good day. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job this week on a day-to-day basis with this market. CPI tomorrow, we'll see. SPY 460s, big resistance. But we definitely, it would be pretty bullish if we just build out in front of it. So I don't know. We'll see how we react to CPI tomorrow. We'll see how we gap overnight. And that's that. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, feel free to share them. Scroll back up in the VTF to when I started. Yeah, Steve, Death Row is Suge Knight. Snoop Dogg bought Death Row Records, for anyone listening on YouTube. That news came out. But I guess now, like, BlackRock, someone from BlackRock owned them. Uber backed off that 44. Yeah, Justin, definitely. Twilio's up that much. Wow. Yeah. Pat, do you also sometimes starting your position by taking feeler size and then looking for add your core size at some intraday signal, etc.? If yes, if you can talk about your process a bit, thanks. Yeah, let me think of how I want to answer this question, because it really depends on the name and if it's because I don't know. Let me think for a second on how I want to answer this question. Because I want to say yes, but honestly, I really don't do that too often. I don't buy 100 shares around a level that I see, and then if I see a signal, I buy 1,000. I think I just wait for that signal and then buy the 1,000. Or if I'm buying a feeler, I'm probably giving it a lot of room. Whether that's to zero or whether it's to something, it's a lot of room, and then I'm slowly buying on the way down. But that's a different type of trade. Or the only other time I would do, I think what you're doing really is I would buy a feeler intraday, and then I see it start to base up and curl up, and then it starts to curl up above its moving averages, and I think it's basing and gonna curl up or something like that, and then I have an actual real out to buy against, then I might add versus that real out. But that takes time. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I guess I would say I don't really do that too often. Because that almost sounds like you have a kind of a game plan, but you're kind like, I don't know. It does like, I don't know. That just is a little too non-game planny for me. Yeah, so I don't know. I would say I don't really do that too much. I just either I have a game plan to build in versus something, or I wait. I don't take the feeler. I just wait for that signal. So yeah. Yeah, Disney, good too. The stock is so hard to trade. I hate this is one of my do not trade stocks. I hate this stock. And this was I lost some money in this down move too. But even still, just it I don't know. People, I think most people would agree with me that sucks to trade. Can own URA. Yeah. I wonder what the makeup of it is. Yeah, they all look good. Like, um, Robert, like for example, your adding question, like say I wanted to swing CCJ and I think okay, under 20 is a good buy. It's going to go back over 20. So I want to buy it under 20. I might start buying it here with a plan to buy a little bit every, I don't know, 30 cents, 50 cents. And then I'll buy over the course of these days, I'll just be buying every new 30, 50, whatever cent increment on the way down, however many lots I want at those increments, at each new increment. And then by the time it's over here, I'm seeing, okay, 19 is kind of a level and there's a low here. So whatever size, like I probably don't have all that. I probably have more size because it's traded down to 18, but I, probably can get a lot more size for sure. So then, down here on the way down, it hasn't made a low, it hasn't made a pivot. Now over here, I can say, all right, 19's a level, and then I have an out at 18. So do I really love this name? And do I want to give it to 0? Or do I want to give, some or all to 18, and then maybe I can add some versus 18 now that I have a defined out that's not 0. And then 19's a bit of a level, and maybe I can even add some more versus 19. Yeah, hope that helps. CVS guidance killed it, yeah. Diego almost bought a nice pad in 97. Miami is the place to be now, Stefan says. It's definitely warmer than where I am right now. But I like going snowboarding. I've been going snowboarding like every weekend. BMY. Yeah, we did talk about this. 66, 65 inside day. How did this trade through the inside day? Pretty cleanly. Yeah, definitely possible to have made money in this today for sure. That looks pretty clean. Sebastian says, "Hey Pat, I wanted to buy BKKT in the breakout of the inside candle and it broke in pre-market, so I bought it there. I was playing it tight and got stopped on the pullback. Can you tell me if it was a good decision to buy it there Or I should have waited for the open. Also, where would you put your SL if you had bought it pre-market? So, the high yesterday, the trigger was 602. Pre-market, it broke 602. I see. So say you're buying over here. I don't know if this tail is real or not. If I was doing exactly what you were doing, and I had to make an out up, I probably. It depends on your sizing. One, it's the pre-market, so you're probably not taking that much size. If you're taking really big size, you could use like 690 as a stop for some. And then if I had to make an out up, it looks like yesterday 570. Is it 570 or 569? 560? 560. It looks like 560 yesterday. You know, it struggled to get through and then held over here. You could have used 560. I mean, I guess actually you could have used 580 from this over here. But I'm literally just making I mean, you see what I'm doing. I'm literally just eyeballing it from like pivots where, I mean, you know what a pivot is. So you could have used 580. So, and then your question was, you're playing it tight and you got stopped out. Was the decision to buy there? Should I wait for the open? So, yeah, I think you could have used 580 or 560. Probably 580. I actually would have used 580. I don't hate your decision to buy it pre-market because that happens all the time. Trades trigger pre-market, and it's annoying if you're not in it. But if you're able to buy and trade pre-market and you can get in it, then that's good. So I don't hate your decision to buy it. I don't hate your decision to keep it tight. I think if you are keeping it tight, though, then remember your risk reward should be really good. AKA, this is a pretty cheap name, but you could still, we were still kind of looking for a move to like 758 was our first target, right? 758 and then 10. So that's $1.50, $2 reward. So if you're risking 10, 15, 20, 25 cents, even 25 cents, which is kind of a lot of risk in this thing, in my opinion, 25 cents for $1.50, $2 in reward is still pretty good. So if you're buying pre-market, and this is something that I'm trying to do better at myself personally, because I noticed that I'm always trying to think of what ways can I make as much money as possible. And I noticed that I should get better at doing this because I would make more money if I did it more often. And that's basically retrying stuff. I'm pretty good with like not fighting names, but sometimes I'm stubborn where I'm like, if it doesn't work the first time, then it's definitely not going to work. And then it goes back up through the trigger and I just ignore it, even though it looks, it goes from looking good to looking bad to looking good again. And I just ignore it the second time it looks good again. And I miss out. So my point is if your risk reward is whatever, 1 to 5, 1 to 10 plus, then it should be worth it. And that's the important part of game planning is risk reward, and it's simple math behind it. But it should be worth it for you to be able to try it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and you try it 2 times and you lose money 2 times, and then the third time it works, and the trade that you were planning on, the 1 to 5, 1 to 10 works. You're still gonna make money in it. The math works out if you do the math right. So, Sebastian, my long-winded answer to your question is I like your idea. I like your stop. And I think just after the open, this big volume here, you should have just tried it again. And your risk reward, definitely would have paid for it. So that's my thought. I like it. And yeah, you just probably should have tried again. Looks like some more stuff came up in the VTF. Uranium chatter. Disney chatter. When did you start buying? I haven't started buying Dropbox again. I got into Dropbox, and I probably really should have stopped myself out of this thing, but I figure, what the heck, I might as well just keep it if it's above my price. I got into Dropbox, I believe, when did I get in it? What's my price? I want to say I got in, like, it might have been around, no. It must have been around here. Because I think my price is like 22 and change, 21 and change. I'm almost, yeah, I think it was around here I got into Dropbox with size, and it was a great trade, and I have extremely small amount left. Like, kind of the same thing with, like, INSG. Like, I'm long this, but I don't trade it. I'm not buying it. I don't really look at it. I'm just profitable in it. INSG could go to 0, and I'll still make money in that trade. Dropbox that's not the case with Dropbox, but I am still profitable in it from my price from over here, which I really probably should have just taken off at 30 on this break, but it's like really not that much money, and I probably shouldn't have a bigger outlook on it since it's so small anyway. So yeah, I never started buying it again. I only started buying it one time. That's kind of what I try to do for swings, because real swings, like weekly, year-long plus swings, they give, they don't see those prices like ever again that you buy them at if you buy it right. Like, Stefan's been talking about Oxy for so long. Like, we probably won't have a chance to buy Oxy in the mid-20s again for a while. I'm sure he agrees with me on that. So that's Dropbox. That being said, I mean, this was super painful in Dropbox, definitely, but this is based really nicely, and you could, if you're not long Dropbox and you like the name, I don't know, you could definitely own it versus 24. I think it's kind of like a buyout target for me too. Just, I think someone could acquire it for sure. It's not that expensive. So yeah. What do you think of stocks closing gaps with gaps? I like how Disney is closing 2 gaps with its earnings today. Like this, you mean? Or like this? What do I think about it? I don't think much about it or of it. I don't know. It's really not that I don't care about the past, because it's definitely important where stocks came from, but at the same time, like, I don't really care about like a gap being closed with a gap due to this gap because of earnings. I just care about what Disney does tomorrow. This is a really big gap, but it's really good numbers, so I would expect that the gap holds. You're not looking for a short for Disney back to the 80 on the daily tomorrow, because these are really good earnings, and it's a fundamental change in the name. It's not technical. So Disney could chop around this 160 resistance, or it could just open and trade higher. We see that all the time where things gap up huge, but it's, you're not looking to short the big gap. It's a fundamental change. Big money is adjusting in it. You could see big money come into Disney that's been waiting for a sign to buy Disney, and they've been waiting for a good quarter, and you could see big money come in tomorrow. Disney opens around 160. By the end of the day, it's, upper 160s. So yeah, and I'm just saying that because I'm not saying like, oh, I don't think I would see this gap and be like, oh, Disney's gapping over this gap, so it's like not the real gap close. It's a Fugazi gap close, so it's got to sell off tomorrow and close this gap before going higher. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Actually, now I just saw your second question. Do I consider it very bullish? Yeah, I would definitely, if I had to pick, consider it bullish or bearish, I would definitely consider it bullish because you could definitely make the argument that people are either short or stopping out of their long Disney in this down move and now got to buy it back. Was it wrong to have game planned to play Apple long intraday with the move it had yesterday gap this morning? Seems AMD was the one to take. No, so Apple was one of the ones. I mean, I said Apple 176, 175. So again, just know your levels. 176 was the breakaway gap, which it poked through and then lost. So if you're trying that 176, you're probably stopping out here, and then 175 is your next level. And I think you can be looking to buy around here. And Apple's a clean stock, so it probably, SPY is dirty, so SPY will trade through support and back up above it. Apple's clean, that means Apple holds support. Apple could hold 175.00. It's a clean name. So you just know your levels. This level doesn't work. This level should work, and you can try it because your thesis about the market in the back of your mind for today is it's a gap and go day to the upside. So sure, Apple's pulling back here, but that shouldn't get you thinking we're gonna crash and burn today. It's just a little common gap fill. So, 176 didn't work, 175 held, it just chopped around all day, maybe got stopped out over here, and then are really mad into the close. But yeah, no, I don't think it was a bad idea to have game planned it long, maybe just, I mean, I don't know how you traded it, but that's how I probably would have looked at it with those levels. And the AMD levels were, I wrote it down. It was like 139. It was basically every dollar, same thing. 139, 129, 128. So it sold off. It gapped up, sold right off 130 into the 80 MA equilibrium area. So same thing, just a common gap fill. These names weren't really gapping up. What did their dailies look like? Yeah, I mean, it's not really a gap and go here, the same way that like the Qs are. So AMD 130, 129, 128, sold off 130 into equilibrium, chops around 128, and then I think, it holds 128. I think you can be looking to be long here because again, you got your common gap fill at the same time that now it's 10 o'clock and AMD filled its common gap and is now pivoting back up. Remember, you want to buy on the way up. Now it's pivoting back up with your 5-minute, 8 and 21 EMAs still curled up, still sloped up. And at the same time, at 10 a.m., the SPY is going sideways. The SPY is not selling off into equilibrium. It's going sideways. That's super bullish. Qs chopping around, but I mean, you see this catching up. Like the Qs aren't having not a huge red bar. It's chopping around while this catches up. Semis, I guess, kind of like a common gap, but same thing. So yeah, so I think you can be looking to be long AMD around here, off that 128, which was the high. Sort of the high yesterday, but that just like that 128 level. Uber short against the 200 tomorrow? Question mark. I gotta say, I mean, I would look at the numbers again. I don't know if the numbers were just like pretty good or absolutely fantastic. I mean, that play is already like happening. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. If Uber opens here, and it's going to the 200 for a short, let's get long first for that move to the 200, and then we'll flip short. AKA, we'll see where it opens. My exact situation today was AMD. My game plan was let fade into gap into previous high, close around that area. Once we got there, I was looking at AMD, but did not take any size because I did not like the risk with higher share size. So I thought in this situation, in the future, I can start with my smaller share size and then add if it goes in my favor. If trade fail, I did not risk full size. Yeah, so probably 10 a.m. Oops. 10 a.m. I'm probably looking at a 5 and a 2 still. So yeah, I mean, you kind of told me how you traded it. I mean, your game plan was spot on. 128.30. I assume you mean 127.70 to 128.30. Your game plan was spot on. Um, I think just this is your signal to add right here when it goes below 128 and then back above 128. It's 45 cents a risk, so it's a little bit of risk. You could do it versus, you could do some versus the low of the day. You could do some versus this candle's low, which it does poke back below 128, but it holds this candle's low here. But I think that's your signal to add is, um, which I don't know, maybe in real time this did it a couple times back through 128. Um, but basically, yeah. I'm just trying to think if this, because I don't like to talk in hindsight like things are easy. If this like went through 128 a bunch of times and then stopped you out, which like that happens. That happened to me with Netflix this morning. I tried Netflix versus like 400 a bunch of times and got stopped before it went. Um, so yeah, so okay, when I talk about things going through whole numbers, like let this go through 120, let this go through 100, and then back above, this goes back to like the risk reward thing and making sure that your risk reward makes sense where you can try it 2 or 3 times because the market's not perfect. Strategies like that aren't perfect where it's going to poke through by 5 cents and then go back up and then you're good to go. And if it doesn't work there, it's not going to work. Sometimes it's a bit shaky. So I don't know if this looks like it probably went through 128 and then back above and then back below, and it might have done it like twice for a new low. Um, but I almost like to usually let it happen twice where like I don't know, like I think like okay, where are like the suckers getting stopped out or something like that because like that's where the smart money buys and reverses things. So like something like super obvious where it's like okay, AMD's coming into 128, so buy off 128. People are probably buying off 128, then they're stopping them out and coming right back up, and that first time where it pokes it and then comes right back up, that might be it and you might be able to try. But oftentimes, just from my time of observing the market and observing this, they shake it like twice. Like they poke it by 5, 10 cents, they come back up. You think that's the poke, and then you buy it back in, and then they really shake it down again and stopped everyone that rebought it back through that level that first time. They really shake it down again, and then they do it. And everyone that tried rebuying that first time gets stopped and then they really quickly snap it right back up again. So I know I'm just kind of blabbering on, but my point is that would be your signal to add an AMD is, and you might get stopped on an ad, but your ad, again, if you're risking 40 cents in AMD, AMD can easily trade 2, 3, 4, 5 points higher in a day. This traded 3 points higher, 40 cents to make 3 points is pretty good. So yeah, I hope that helps, Robert. Yeah, I agree with Rowan. Your ideas are good, Robert. You've definitely gotten a lot better over your time with us. Do I still see DBX as a buyout candidate? Yeah, yes, I do. And yes, I agree with that. Isn't that kind of an island reversal on Disney? Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, like a gap and go, definitely. I like Disney for like a pivot EMA trade long tomorrow? Yeah, Justin. Yeah, I do. Um, on earnings is different because it's like kind of the same game plan for any name. Would something you take into account with that AMD example is that it is unable to hold beneath 128? Or is that basically what I was saying? Yeah, that's basically what I was saying, Jared. um, yeah, that's kind of the point where you would expect it to, like, that's where you would expect it to hold on the gap and go today. 128 opens, comes into these rising moving averages, pokes 128 like once or twice, gets back above, and never looks back. So I think I said 40 cents of risk, but this was actually 128 to 133. That's actually $5 of reward. So that's like 10x. That's literally 10x. 40 cents of risk for $5. Okay, looks like I got through everything. Yeah, looks good. Cool. So yeah, we'll see what CPI looks like tomorrow. Probably gonna be hot. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see how we gap into it as well. That's gonna matter for the reaction, and we'll see. But so far, so good this week. We were looking for continuation. We certainly got it, and this market definitely looks a lot more bullish. It probably looks the most bullish it has all year, besides like back here. So yeah, thanks everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning.